resource person, Dr. Chaudhary, respected Dr. Rukovikas Gugoi sir, Principal Duliajan College, honorable guest speaker, resource person of today's webinar, Dr. Sakuntala Chaudhary, data scientist and adjunct professor, Williamson Patterson University, United States of America, honorable participants from different colleges, and perhaps a few of them are from abroad, and my dear participating students. At the very onset, I would like to welcome you all to this webinar entitled Leadership During Pandemic, Data Science and Careers in Data Science, Machine Learning. This webinar is being organized by the Computer Science Department in collaboration with Internal Quality Assurance Cell of Duliajan College. Before beginning, actually, I would like to have a very brief introduction of our honorable guest. But before going to the introduction, I request all the participants to not to present their screen. Please keep your mic off in off mode, and if possible, you can keep off your video also, because unnecessary data will be lost. And you are cordially requested not to present your screen because it will hamper our session, and especially when our guest speaker will deliver. In that case, that disturbance will be really intolerable for us. Please bear with us. Please do not present your screen. So to begin with, Dr. Sakuntala Chaudhary is an AT&T retiree and is currently adjunct professor of machine learning at Williamson Patterson University, Wayne, New Jersey, United States of America. She has focused her career on an analytics. She has been a part of the big data mining, and the use of these sophisticated insights across various industries. In recent years, she has had significant exposure to cognitive technologies in the context of financial, telecommunication, pharmaceuticals, and retail industries. Her expertise is in predictive modeling of analytics, time series forecasting, demography and population studies, biostatistics, marketing research, financial forecasting, data mining, and quality assurance. Currently, her capstone projects on COVID-19 data science has been published in researchgate.com. Her expertise include thought leadership in data science and statistical computation tools like SAS, RPython, and SRL, as well as visualization tools like Power BI and Tableau. In community service, she joined NSVD to combat COVID-19 in United States of America, as well as the rest of the world. Moreover, I would like to add a point here. This is special actually. I would like to inform you that Dr. Chaudhary is the elder daughter of one of the greatest son of our soil, that is Assam. As you all know, late Dr. Jyoti Prasad Medhi, the renowned mathematician worldwide, he was known for his contribution to the field of statistics. And we were actually fortunate enough earlier to have the eldest son actually presenting here a few days back actually, and today we are having his eldest daughter with us. Really, we are fortunate to have with us, madam, and we welcome you and look forward to your wise words with respect to this particular webinar. And I hope that you will enlighten with your deliberation. And with these few words, Now I would like to request our principal, Dr. Luke Vikas Gogoi, to put forth his inaugural speech. Thank you very much. Gogoi sir. Hello.
Sir, mute আছে.
Manoj.
Hello.
Gogoi sir, you can go ahead with your inaugural speech.
Okay. Thank you, John Doctor. A very great good evening to you all present here. And of course, a very warm good morning to our Honorable Resource Person. Honorable Resource Person, Professor Shakuntala Chaudhary, distinguished attendees, faculty members of different educational institutions, and my dear participants. It's really a great pleasure for me to welcome you all to this international webinar organized by the Department of Computer Science in collaboration with IQAC Duliajan College. The theme of the webinar, Leadership During the Pandemic, Data Science and Career in Data Science, Machine Learning, is very relevant and important one in this pandemic situation. Data science is an emerging field nowadays, and in terms of jobs, rank of data scientist is one of the top in these days. I am confident that the outcome of this webinar will prove useful to our young minds to overcome new challenges with the situations arising out of COVID-19 pandemic. As we all know that the outbreak of COVID-19 has caused problems in our normal life, in the functioning of all fields, countries across the globe. In the coming days, this horrific crisis will result in a huge change in our personal as well as professional life. We have to change our lifestyle for our survival and also be ready to face present and future perspectives of COVID-19. Coronavirus related disruptions make the teaching community to rethink in the area of delivering education to the learners. In view of the present crisis, teachers and other peoples associated with the world of education are emphasizing the need to envisage on how to educate future generations. Educational institutions are getting compelled to develop digital distance education material for students using available technical capability and resources. Today, widespread use of technology has become necessary for education. Knowledge is just a mouse click away because of internet. In this context, we the Duliajan College have also made significant effort to keep pace with the situation arising out of the present crisis by providing digital classes to the students through different platforms. Besides this, we have arranged several webinars during these hard times for academic developments of students as well as faculty members. Today's webinars is 18th in numbers in this series of webinars organized by our institution. Today, we are fortunate enough for having with us Dr. Shakuntala Chaudhary, data scientist and adjunct professor, William Patterson University, United States of America, as a resource person in this webinar. We are extremely grateful to you, madam. I also thankful to all the faculty members of the Department of Computer Science, joint coordinators of IQAC, Joyanta Dotto and Dr. Dayendra Nath, and entire technical team behind this event for their constant support. With these words, I conclude my inaugural speech. Thank you. Thank you all once again. Thank you, Bhartu.
Thank you, Principal Sir. Thank you for your speech. Now, may I request our honorable guest speaker and resource person of today's webinar, Dr. Chaudhary, to go forward with her deliberation. Dr. Chaudhary.
নমস্কাৰ মই অসমৰ
নমস্কাৰ।
বোৱাৰী অসমৰ ছোৱালী গতিকে প্ৰথম অসমীয়া এটা আৰম্ভ কৰোঁ আজি আমি
নিশ্চয়।
পৰিসংখ্যা বিজ্ঞান কেনেকৈ ইউজ কৰিছোঁ এই মহামাৰীৰ সময়ত সেই বিষয়ে অলপ কম আমি অসমৰ ৰাইট ফ্ৰম দ্য নৰ্থ ইষ্ট কৰ্নাৰ দ্য ৰিম'টেষ্ট কৰ্নাৰ অফ ইণ্ডিয়া আৰু তাতে মহান দুজন মানুহ আছিল মোৰ দেউতা ডক্টৰ জ্যোতিপ্ৰসাদ মেধি আৰু তেওঁৰ ক্লাছমেট ভূপেন হাজৰিকা যিকোনো ফাংচন আৰম্ভ কৰাৰ আগতে এটা ভূপেন হাজৰিকাৰ সুধা কণ্ঠৰ বেলাড অফ আছামৰ এটা বৰগীত শুনি সকলোৱে ভাল পাব তাৰ পাছতে মোৰ বক্তৃতা ইংৰাজীতে আৰম্ভ কৰিম সেইকাৰণে মই ৰিকুৱেষ্ট কৰিছো জয়ন্ত বা মনোজ বা ডক্টৰ গগৈ বজাই দিব পাৰে সেইটো
মনোজ
পাৱে পৰি হৰি
Hello,
কাৰণ পৃথিৱীখন সকলো আনষ্টেবল আৰু বিশেষকে কৰোণা ভাইৰাছৰ আৰু বেছি হৈছে
মনোজ এটা টেকনিক্যাল প্ৰব্লেম হৈছে তাতে গীতটো বজাবৰ কাৰণে বাইদেৱে খুব ভাল কথা কৈছে আচলতে আমি সুধা কণ্ঠক বাদ দি চিন্তা নকৰিব নোৱাৰো আচলতে তেখেতৰ বৰ ধুনীয়া এটা মানে মনোভাৱ বাহিৰত আছে নিজৰ ৰাজ্যখনৰ প্ৰতি নিজৰ মানুহখিনিৰ প্ৰতি কিমান মৰম ইমান মৰম চেনেহ কথাখিনিতে প্ৰকাশ পাইছে কিন্তু আমি বৰ দুখ পাইছো যে আমি আগবাঢ়িব পৰা নাই মনোজ ডেকা আমাৰ টেকনিকেল চাই আছে তেখেতে চেষ্টা কৰিছে কিন্তু সম্ভৱ কিবা এটা প্ৰব্লেম হৈছে গীতটো বজাব পৰা নাই মনোজ শুনিছা নেকি
স্পিকাৰটো মানে কি হয়
এতিয়া আহিছে
একেটা ইক হয় তাৰমানে মাতটো
এইটো বঢ়িয়া হৈছে
এতিয়া শুনিছো সুন্দৰ
So we are paying respect to Shonkardev, Bhupen Hazarika and my land of Assam.
Manoj,
Okay, হ'ব হ'ল নহয়?
হ'ব বাইদেউ। ভাল লাগিলে আপোনাৰ somebody is presenting their skin, please do not do that. মই সকলোকে অনুৰোধ কৰিছোঁ যাতে স্ক্ৰীন প্ৰেজেণ্ট নকৰে, কাৰণ আমাৰ সন্মানীয় সমল ব্যক্তি শ্ৰদ্ধাৰ ডক্টৰ চৌধুৰী বাইদেউ এতিয়া নিজৰ বক্তব্য আগবঢ়াব। আপোনালোকে অনুগ্ৰহ কৰি এইখিনি যাতে নকৰে আকৌ। বাইদেউ প্লিজ।
অ'কে, মোক সকলোৱে শুনা পাইছেনে?
পাইছোঁ পাইছোঁ।
নমস্কাৰ, মোৰ নাম
নমস্কাৰ।
ডক্টৰ শকুন্তলা চৌধুৰী। আজি আপোনালোকৰ মাজত আমি মাজত আছে ডক্টৰ লোক বিকাশ গগৈ, জয়ন্ত দত্ত, মনোজ ডেকা, দয়ানন্দ নাথ আৰু ৰুমঝুম মোৰ সৰু ভনী। আপোনালোকৰ সন্মান কৰি মাতাৰ কাৰণে বহুত ধন্যবাদ। মই অসমৰে ছোৱালী, অসমৰে জীয়াৰী। যোৱা বছৰ মই 3বাৰ গলো অসমলৈ। মোৰ মা গা বেয়া আছিল, তেখেত ঢুকাল। যোৱাকালি শ্ৰাদ্ধ হ'ল। গতিকে আজি মই এই ট্ৰিবিউট টু মাই মাদাৰ, শ্বি ৱাজ এ আইৰণ লেডি। খুব গান্ধীয়ান ফিলচফি আৰু ভীষণ উইজডম আছিল। তেখেতৰ নামতে কৰি পেলাই আজি মোৰ বক্তৃতাটো ইংৰাজীতে আৰম্ভ কৰিম। গতিকে উইল টক এবাউট ডেটা চায়েন্স। অসমত ষ্টেটিষ্টিক্সক কি কয়? পৰিসংখ্যা বিজ্ঞান, ৰাইট? এতিয়া মই প্ৰেজেণ্ট কৰিব পাৰোঁনে মোৰ স্ক্ৰীনখন?
নিশ্চয় নিশ্চয় পাৰিব।
ওলাইছে?
নাই পোৱা দেখা বাইদেউ। মনোজ,
কোনোবাই শ্বেয়াৰ কৰি আছে, থানেশ্বৰ শইকীয়া।
মনোজ শুনিছানে?
বেলেগ এজন মানুহে
মনোজ অকণ বাইদেউক হেল্প কৰাচোন। এইটো বাইদেউৰ স্ক্ৰীনখন প্ৰেজেণ্ট কৰিব বিচাৰিছে।
ওলাইছে?
মেম আপুনি প্ৰেজেন্ট নাও ক্লিক কৰিব।
প্ৰেজেণ্ট নাও কৰিছো,
দেন
কিন্তু
এ উইন্ডো ক্লিক অন এ উইন্ডো।
কোনোবাই শ্বেয়াৰ কৰি আছিলে, এজন বেলেগ
মই
এজনৰ।
ক্লোজ কৰিলো, ৰিমুভ কৰিলো।
ওলাইছে?
yes ma'am.
It's coming out, right?
Yes,
Yes,
yes.
yes,
now,
yes, ma'am.
Okay, দেখা পাইছেনে? Okay,
Yeah, right. Okay. Yes.
so today we are facing a very huge pandemic in the world that has never seen since 1918. 1918, we had the Spanish flu, where 50 million people were killed across the world. So with this new pandemic of COVID-19, we're approaching a new world order. So world changed after 1918, following the pandemic, and then came the Second World War. So 1948, there was a new world order that was established, and modern civilization started, and revolution started to happen. So 2020, we're facing the same new world order. There'll be a lot of changes in terms of globalization, and we are facing a crisis in education, as Dr. Gogoi mentioned, crisis in race, crisis uh, in other healthcare needs across the world. So I'm going to talk about leadership during the COVID-19 pandemic, how we can look from the lens of a statistician or data scientist, because data is a big asset now, and with a click of a finger, data is generated across the world. COVID-19 is not only a health issue, it's causing supply chain disruption, uh, uh, change in economic across the world, change in life expectancy, and so on and so forth. So I am calling from New Jersey, which is close to New York. Here's a picture from New York. So good morning from New York. And my name is Shakuntala Chaudhary, and today is August 13th. A little bit about me. As all Assamese do, we offer some kind of jalpan before you start any speech. So here is Statue of Liberty offering you some narikol pitha, rose, gulab phul aru, and cake. So I have devoted my career in statistics and data science. I started working at AT&T 1985 after getting my master's in economics from Ohio University, and have been carrying the same specialization for the last 3 decades. Having worked at telecom and one of the premier labs in the world, AT&T Bell Labs, had given me the new brand of a data scientist of an Assamese origin. I have been very motivated by my father, Dr. Jyoti Prasad Medhi, by the pearls of wisdom of Dr. Bhupen Hajorika, who came to New Jersey and stayed at my residence, and also Khogen Mohanto, who stayed at our place. So I had the opportunity and privilege to meet some of the greatest minds of Northeast India, as well as some of the Nobel laureates. I met Mother Teresa at Guwahati when I was a student at St. Mary's. I met Dorothy Hodgkin, the British doctor who won the Nobel Prize in chemistry at the Guwahati University function. And I met uh, Desmond Tutu at the graduation of my daughter at the Ivy League School, University of Pennsylvania. So all these have made me a well-rounded person. And it's not the qualification, it's all about how you view life and the knowledge. So I'm going to talk a little bit about data science and about the skills that are necessary to prepare yourself. There's a lot of data, tons of data across the world, and data monetization, data operationalization is an important aspect. I enjoy traveling and reading, and as you can see, my cooking also. Have traveled across the world from Australia to China, to the Middle East and all of US, Canada, but waiting to go to South America and Antarctica. Probably will do some projects on green zone in Antarctica and penguins. So with this, I start my speech. Hope I can hear me, right? Everything is clear?
Yes, ma'am, clear.
Okay. So what is data science? So we are overwhelmed with data. As the click of a finger, data gets generated on the smartphone. Data comes in different volume, shapes, and size. It could be numerical data, text analytics, and pictures, and multimedia. So data is overwhelming the whole world, and there's a need for better analysis of data so we can make good informed decision and take care of things that are fake news and other propaganda that's being floating around on the social media. So machine learning is part of data science. It includes artificial intelligence and that are used in data mining. So it's a combination of statistics, computer science, and mathematics. Machine learning is a catch-all term to describe the process by which an algorithm learns from and make prediction related to the data it encounters. And some of the programming tools are SAS, R, Python, and some of them are open source available across the world. So machine learning includes the interaction of existing systems like production databases, data cleansing, and data acquisition. So as I told, data is the most important asset, and there'll be a lot of data monetization going from 2020 to 2026. So this is the time and the opportunity to work on it, as long as the essential service like internet and telecom is working, so is the hospitals and the healthcare systems. So data mining is looking at exploratory data analysis to target the important features or predictors of any machine learning algorithm, which in simple algebra is called equation y equal to a plus bx. And in computer science, they like to use different terms than normal statistics, which is mostly derived by the British. The famous British statistician are Cox, Dr. Bartlett. My father was trained under Dr. Bartlett in time series, and he had produced for the last 70 years. So two important things in statistics, probability and time. So uncertainty and the time variable are the most important determinant of what is going to happen in the next event. So with data mining, there are 4 different ways of looking at it. Supervised classification, that includes regression, pattern recognition, which is computer science, clustering, which is putting people into different clusters or homogeneous group. For example, you can segment people of the Northeast India to rest of India and look at different characteristics and statistical techniques that are being used. So as I go along, I might ask question, or we can reserve the question for the Q&A session at the end. So what does data science roles and how they interact? As you can see on the left, there are 3 circles. Here's the data engineer, as the computer science area calls it. Here's the data scientist, which is the plain old statistician. And this word was coined during Obama's administration to make it look more attractive. And it was coined by Mr. Patel, who was the chief data scientist for the White House during Obama's presidency. And here are the business owners. They are the most important person from where we get the business critical question to answer and how do we hypothesize. So from here, as you know in math, it's a Venn diagram, and here is the overlap. This is where the hypothesis is developed. Then we do the operationalization, monetization, and data governance, which is the data privacy issue. As you know, Google, Facebook, and all are facing the CNET regarding data being sent to different places. So this is the big concept about data science. Now I'll talk about what is big data. Big data comes in 3 V's: volume, velocity, and variety. At beginning, we had ERP system. Now we have CRM, customer relationship management. Some of you probably know Salesforce.com, then the web, and finally the big data. During the pandemic, all the web-based service are going to flourish because people cannot make. So everything has to be done by Zoom, web, any e-commerce, e-health, e-medicine, e-education, everything is done by the web. So this is going to flourish. Lots of data will be generated. So knowing certain language like Python, SAS to scrape the web for data is a very important tool that data scientists or whoever aspire to become data scientists could, self-learn. So because of that, data comes in complexity, volume, and speed. So this is big data. So big data should not scare anybody. You have to make a judgment using statistical modeling, mathematical reasoning to come up with the most important predictors. So big data is reduced to manageable data set that will predict the future or the inference about the population. So sufficient statistic, that's what it is called. Some of the common application of big data and data mining as well machine learning is like self-driving car, for example, the Tesla. And I think Honda has one or two where they use certain techniques like neural network, how the brain thinks to operate these cars, and it has computer vision. I have seen one and it can actually detect who is standing in front of it and then self-drive it. So the person just sits there and drive. It's very good for older people because as we lose our website, eyesight, this could be a good info, kind of technology that's being used in cars. But I do not, encourage people to buy this car immediately. It's always good to have your regular cars. Then in here, it's about early detection. For example, COVID or any kind of, disease. There could be blood clots. So they have to do a Doppler on the leg or your feet to find out where there is a clot in your body. So it doesn't travel to your brain or to your lungs. And that is one of the most common cause of death for younger people in the 20s, 30s, and 40s. Machine learning algorithm can tell where the tumor is or where the blood clot is. So the doctors can efficiently diagnose and save them from dying. As you know, in 2011, 7 billion people have been counted in this world, and people live longer, longevity increased in India from 63 to age 76 in average because of the discovery of penicillin after World War II. But with the COVID-19, we're facing another kind of historical fact that people are living longer, but they might have to live with disability because this disease is so scary, it could affect all organs of the body, primarily the lungs, which carry the oxygen and to the whole body. So we have to be very cognizant and look at life expectancy from a different perspective regarding pandemic, regarding global tobacco survey, and so on and so forth. Um, so we all need human thought leaders. It's not about the machine. Machine is the computer, and human thought leader is the human brain who develops the algorithm and feed it to a machine. So the machine can use its huge computing power to produce the algorithms that can be productionalized using massive amount of data across the world. So the seven scientists, which is a leadership role in the discipline of philosophy of thinking and economics of applying or implementation. So this is based on a book by Stephen Covey, which says the highly effective habits of very highly effective people. So my thoughts about the 7 steps to effective data mining are as follows. Defining the objective. It could be a COVID related, or since you're in Duliajan, your close proximity to the highest, producing oil field in Asia, Digboy, Duliajan, Bhagjan. There could be other opportunities as Duliajan College to define the objective to prepare for disaster like the Bhagjan fire, which could be very bad for people that had COVID because the gas is bad for the lungs. So some kind of defining an objective is very important. Then gathering the data, which could be data from World Bank, looking at carbon dioxide emission, looking at data from Oil India, would be very useful. And I would like the sons of the soil and the girls of the soil from the land of Assam to be initiating this project, and people from across the world will contribute. So preparing the data for modeling is a huge step. It takes about 40, even 50% of the time, because you have to get the data from the web to scrape it. And India has been very prominent in the discipline of computing and web design, web development. Indian brains are useful across the world. And just want to mention about that. Selecting the variable, processing the data, and validating the model. So implementing the whole model and the whole process. So machine learning is a synergistic exercise between a human brain and a machine, which is the computer. So we still have to use data scientists who are required to find the hypotheses using philosophical thought. So we are thought leaders. And it's a very important discipline in the American scenario. It is the liaison between IT and top management. Without data scientists, they cannot formulate the problem or collect the data to come up with insights that are useful for human and business decision making. So think about it. It's a very lucrative discipline to be, and within the next 4 to 10 years, data science and CRM would be the lucrative profession across the world. There's a lot of demand, but supply is very low. So, like in case of cybersecurity, 500,000 jobs are unfilled across the world because there's not enough data scientists that look at cybercrime. They are mostly reactive. Somebody gets into your system, it's already too late, and they look at the clustering. But we have to be proactive to develop some risk-based model to see who are the cyber frauders, and that could be used using statistical technique like logistic regression to quantify the effect of false positive. So I have been fortunate to work at AT&T and Verizon, where I kind of partially retired, and I am back into teaching because I think knowledge is not to be contained, knowledge need to be propagated. শিক্ষকতা কৰাই ভাল বুলি ভাবিলো এতিয়া to teach the future data scientists of US as well as across the world. So I started teaching at a university as an adjunct professor of data science in the graduate program for the Masters of Applied Business Analytics. It's at the William Patterson University. William Patterson was the first governor of New Jersey when the Constitution was declared 251 years ago. So it is a state university. I am associated with that. I am also their mentor for the career advisor, and I am doing some youth camp also going forward. Like I said, education, pharmaceutical, healthcare, and disaster recovery needs a lot of data science. So in my process, I always hypothesize the critical business question, whether it is reducing the fatality in COVID or decreasing the infection reproduction rate or a churn or the decrease in revenue in a company. Based on that, you have to develop key performance indicators, which could be your, percent per 1,000 people that had COVID positive, so and so forth. Document the market assumption and constraint in time and resources, because you might need a server. So consider using cloud computing. And Google is offering a lot of free services in India. Right now, the CEO of Google is Indian, and I'm proud to say that I am also an Indian, an American citizen. And as you know, yesterday, the running mate for the US presidency has been selected. and the vice president is Kamala Harris. She's of Indian origin. Her mother is from Tamil Nadu and her father was African American. So proud to be an Indian woman in this time of challenge and crisis. So after you get that, you write your spec to collect the data, because data comes from different various areas. It could be firmographics about companies, geographic, like looking at the geo data in different parts of a tsunami, for example, in Japan, looking at psychographic from surveys to understand patient or customer sentiments, and also the web presence. Make yourself presence in the web, like GitHub, Kaggle, so people know that you are up to the technology. This is a fast growing skill, and data science is updated every day. So it's always up to you to learn more. Professors and philosophers and thought leaders only can guide you, but you have to spend 80% of your time to understand the new technologies. Some of the most recommended methodologies are predictive and prescriptive modeling, random forest, logistic regression, and dimensionality reduction, which I mean is about 2,000 variables being reduced to 15 most important predictors that will define any data, whether it's nutrition, whether it's healthcare, whether it's beauty, whether it is graphic art, and so on. And always develop a timeline, because you have to manage your expectation with your professors or with your business leaders. You cannot say Hobodiok. Assam is a land of Lahe Lahe, and Hobodiok is always the go-to phrase. But you have to always put a timeline telling you'll need 2 weeks to collect the data, 4 weeks to run your model, so you can manage the expectation. Best model. Do it redundancy, repetitive, and then in parallel document the modeling process. I know today a lot of industries do not use paper binder, but they keep it in their website. So it's always good to have a documentation so that you can, or anybody can look into it on the web or in the SharePoint website. And people have a lot of turnover. People might leave the world because of COVID. We lose a lot of important people during this pandemic, but knowledge has to be retained. So always document. And writing also helps in your own memory. It stays in your mind. Then create some dashboards, in CRM. So people like laymen, people who do not have the formula or formulary of statistics can understand by looking at pictorial depiction. So that is the success of a data scientist and the data scientist models. So careers in data science, this applies to US and across the world. Data scientists enjoy successful careers in every industry and sector in US as well as rest of the world. Number one is national security, as you know about the elections coming, business intelligence, law enforcement, financial and accounting, healthcare is very important, disaster preparedness like the pandemic or the Bagjan, a natural disaster, gas that happened in Duliajan, because the oil from Assam are very important to Asia. The first oil field was discovered by the British in Digboy. That's where Oil India and Assam Oil Company started. So if you can get some of the data and prepare with the patronage of Dr. Gogoi of Duliajan College, that will be a very good for public good. And Assam has the talent. Assam is awesome. We have the talent. Only thing we have to organize. But most people think of e-commerce as retail, like Amazon India or Amazon buying things. But we can use it for better good, for law enforcement, for financial and accounting, for auditing, PPEs and other healthcare needs, distribution of vaccine across the world, supply chain, which will be a big disaster because a lot of the supplies for formulary medicine come from China, and that has been kind of stopped. So there'll be a lot of deglobalization. So federal agencies, CIA, all hire data scientists, including Google, Yahoo, Bing. And this kind of work can be done from any part of the world. So I encourage Assamese and Northeastern Indians to come forward and apply to jobs at Google India, AT&T India, and Verizon India. They're big uh, employers of data scientists. You can do the job from India. You don't have to apply for H1 visa to come to US. And life skills needed are JavaScript, web scraping, Python, that you can scrape the world. And that will be for public good as far as well as mentioned. When I first came to US 38 years ago, there were things called dot basters. We cannot wear a bindi in New Jersey. And also people used to ask me in Ohio, where very few Indians were, whether India still have jugglers to do snake dance, and why do we pray to Ganesh and a mouse. But today, I'm proud to say that Indians are conquering the world with the computer mouse, which is a great achievement. And most of the CEOs of, gig companies, MAGA, Amazon, Microsoft, Google, Apple, they're Indians of Indian origin. So you probably know that. So keep your skills, do your work. Don't think of flying on a cylinder to come to US. You can do the job very well from India itself by looking at opportunities with Google, with Facebook, and all of them have entities and they do the basic data scraping over there. Data science has four pillars. The first two pillars deal with harnessing big data that is used using Spark, Hadoop, and so on. My lecture is mostly about the second two, which is using data science to create the algorithm and to make business or healthcare decisions based on that. Any questions so far, or should I keep on going?
Participants, if
Keep on
you
going,
have
ma'am.
questions, then you can type in the chat box. Actually, it will be better.
Okay, then we can do at the Q&A, right?
Yeah. That will
So
be better.
aside from teaching the graduate school, Master of Applied Business Analytics at William Patterson, there was a very much need of data science in US because there's a supply is very low, demand is very high. So it's always good to teach. So I started teaching private data science camp, and one of my advanced level is this one, which is the 10 weeks camp, and it's about introduction to machine learning in big data management and ML oriented fundamentals. So algebra, metrics, probability, vector, those are very useful tools, and all of your basic knowledge. One thing good about data science is even people from humanities can participate because a lot of these programs are already object oriented, like in Python, or they are GUI, graphical user interface. So you can point and click. And what I found that, data scientists and computer scientists are like behind the scene, but if you can be thought leader with your soft skills of communicating your ideas and how you practice your, what you preach, that becomes the most important. So most of the successful business leaders are people who have the philosophy of a thought leader and also have the technical knowledge. So think about that in that sense. So I teach about data science, then also on Python, the library to look at text analytics, which is very important in today's days in the litigation case. With COVID has come a lot of litigation from different parts of United States and across the world. And lawyers do not have time to read legal documents. So they will use bag of words using Python or SAS to text mine their document and come up with the most important problem to be solved using something called Pareto analysis in statistics, which was preached by Deming, and Deming was quality control statistician who helped Sony and Japanese firm to come to the highest level of quality. And he used to give us lectures at AT&T Bell Labs in Murray Hill, New Jersey, 30 years ago. And Murray Hill produced 7 Nobel laureates, and the most recent was the one on transistor, which was discovered at Bell Labs. And I was working there, and I'm a retired person from that company. So some of the thought leadership came from all this. And then I cover Amazon's deep learning, how they designed the self-driving cars. And these are some of the techniques used from Google, the Google TensorFlow, which is also an open source that you can download. And finally, when you have your project, you have to produce it, and it's called a capstone project. You can look at Wikipedia, and that's a technical way of writing the project with thought leadership and communicating to the layman, people who do not have the technical knowledge, but they have the business sense, so you can monetize your data. So it's always good to produce that kind. I have been a judge for the capstone project at New Jersey Institute of Technology, where computer science, statistics, math, programming all come together. So it is an interdisciplinary discipline, and there's a lot of cognitive learning, and so which is the theory of relativity. And there's another course that I teach, which is basic statistics at New Jersey and across US. There's some interest from Dubai at the chartered accountants. They are trying to get into the discipline of statistics and data science, because accounting is very important right now as companies are doing auditing during the pandemic. So I lectured to the world's second largest body of chartered accountants of India. They are based in Dubai, because that is the Gulf region where oil comes. Oil, natural gas, gold, those are the most important asset a country can have, and our Assam has that. So these are basic statistics, and I'm using SAS, which is called Statistical Analysis System. It has been developed 45 years ago in North Carolina, United States, by a statistician professor. He's still there, Dr. Goodnight. He is the father of modern artificial intelligence and machine learning. SAS was developed for experimental design for agriculture. That's why everything that's done in US in terms of agriculture are very scientifically designed, because it's based on experimental design, and that software became the famous SAS. And SAS VIYA, which I'll put on the chat, has an additive module for R and Python. So if you write your code in Python, it can be read into SAS. SAS is not available in India. It's only used in US, Japan, and the G8 nation. And I think it's restricted in China right now, because it's very proprietary. The algorithms are proprietary, and it's vastly used in healthcare, pharmaceutical, and drug discovery, telecom, all in regulated industries. And at Facebook, Amazon, Google, for their marketing and advertising algorithms, they do not use open source. So it's good to know that. Then the coursework that I teach lead to the AWS certification for data scientists and developers. These are all resources available during pandemic for a teacher, student, including high schoolers, to learn and improve their knowledge of data science, because we have ample time. God has given us ofuranta homoy that you can use to better yourself. I gave this data science lecture at IIT Guwahati last year, which is one of the premier educational organization in the world. and also in India. And I also presented at my alma mater at the Diocese of Don Bosco University in Assam. Those two were paid project. I was there fortunate enough to give in person a lecture and see my mother. And my mother said, be somebody we can educate the masses. Assam needs help, and create more jobs for Assam using, internet and programming capabilities that could be developed in Assam. So I've been doing that. So the class project always ends with capstone. You can publish your articles in GitHub. That's what I do. And I look at data from public sources. Data privacy is very important. You do not want to go to companies or any data source. There will be litigation. Litigation means lawsuits. The lawyer will be involved. So you have to go to open source. Kaggle has a very good repository called kaggle.com. And Sundar Pichai, the CEO of Kaggle, Google has announced that he will make Google platform available to every corner of India during the pandemic. So please take, I can guide you on that, but take advantage of that. So my work will, along with my students and team, beside corporate work at industry, has been published. It was presented to the US Senate for COVID-19 pandemic management, and also has been forwarded to CNN chief medical correspondent, who happens to be an Indian of North Indian origin, Dr. Sanjay Gupta. So I feel very fortunate. One of the VP of programming for CNN is of Assamese origin. Her father is from Sodia, which is near the Bhupen Hazarika Bridge, and she had published my daughter's article about pandemic and how a healthcare physician handled the issue during the panic times in New York when 1,000 people died a day. Today, New York, New Jersey is very well contained because we looked at data, and that's how we reopened our state and our country. I will go to those websites, and I also submitted in researchgate.net as a university or educational institution, Duliajan College, Guwahati University, IIT. They can look into those. I got very good appreciation from scientists in Hong Kong, Australia, Taiwan. They're asking me, why does Americans don't wear face mask? Face mask and contact tracing are the two big strategies, because there's no other way out of COVID. There's no vaccine, no medicine that will cure all. So the vaccine that are in development are in competition. The first generation of vaccine that will come out in a year after June of 2021 will be only available for older people. It cannot be given to children or younger adults because they have to prove it that it doesn't have any side effect based on World Health Organization's quality of life metrics and drug safety and efficacy. And also I did some work on public policy. These are volunteer work, as US has given me a lot. We come from the remote corner of India. My daughter was born and raised by my mother for 3.5 years of her life at the Guwahati University campus. But she had a destiny. She came to this country when I started working for AT&T, and she proved herself and went to Ivy League school, University of Pennsylvania, undergraduate in biomedical engineering, then medical school, finally fellowship in pediatric nephrology at Harvard University, and currently she is a doctor at New York Presbyterian Hospital under Columbia University. And proud to say that after Dr. Bhupen Hazarika, she is the only Assamese woman Assamese person to work at Columbia. She's teaching medicine at Weill Cornell and Columbia Medical School. I will post the chat if anybody wants to look at it later, okay? And I'm going to my next slide, and then I'll show you the websites. So finally, thinking about COVID-19 and Capstone project, a lot of the data I'm sharing cannot be shared everywhere. So I'm not going to give you the view graphs or the presentation, but you can capture the screen. So the new world order, the executive summary would look like the reopening, the economic impact of COVID-19. Obama, Bill Clinton opened globalization. So there have been a lot of outsourcing from India, a lot of people moving from India to here on H1 visa to work on projects in US. But with the COVID, it'll become deglobalized. Every country has to be self-sufficient in terms of education, healthcare, and agriculture. So that's why I mentioned SAS and design of experiments for agricultural development. In fact, Bayer has a soil science division. Bayer is a very famous company from Germany. It's the company that is in pharmaceuticals, and they have also developed soil science because a lot of this automation and robotic automation data science will also go into agriculture. So it should be a proud thing to apply data science to farming in Assam, where the tea culture is there, where the oil fields are there. Then there should be regional opening. I understand India has very many cases of COVID that are undetected. There's not enough testing, and people are kind of hiding. So they have to open regionally, Mumbai, Delhi, and now Assam because of the migrant workers. That's a big crisis. So a lot of this will be determined by data. I'll show you some of the charts. A lot of bankruptcies will happen in service industries like hotel, hospitality, tourism. And that was the case in Dubai. So they want to do other things beside, real estate. And I did a modeling on the effect of mortality and what is being explained by looking at census data. And in US, 93% of the COVID case is explained by education and poverty. The people who are in the poverty or level or below, they do not have access to the healthcare because of all this health insurance and so on and so forth. And if they are not educated, they do not read the emergency declaration by the governor of different states and say they keep on going out without mask, and doing a lot of physical contact. And that could leave people that it's a question of life and death with the COVID-19. So COVID-19 and public health surveillance and augmentation support is very important. It has to be community-based outreach. Like we are trying to reach out to Indian, temples, Jewish synagogues, Christian churches. People believe in their religion, so they would listen to people and showing them different advocacy groups because it has to be at the grassroots level. You cannot show that on TV or anything. If it comes from somebody you trust, people will start wearing the mask and not wearing the mask halfway like the Indian style, right? And also some of the hotels that are being unoccupied should be turned into quarantine wards and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of challenges with this COVID-19. And I wanted to show the latest map of COVID-19 produced by Johns Hopkins University, Bloomberg School of Public Health, that's world known. Several members, my friends from NRHM, which is one of the NGOs in India, they came from training here. My son-in-law, he is a doctor and he's an MPH, Master of Public Health degree from here. So I trust the data. And when you look at here, you don't want the rich, countries or developed countries to be in the top 3. Look at US with 5 million cases of COVID, Brazil the next highest, and then India. And I mentioned this because BRIC countries are very important: Brazil, Russia, Israel, and China in development of the world beside US. So in a bad way, India is right there. We have to combat this disease and try to cope up. Pardon me. So in a bad way, so the death rate should be less than 5%. It has to be zero, but that cannot be attained without a vaccine or a medicine. And zero is the green zone where there is no COVID cases. And some of the countries like Taiwan, New Zealand, Germany, all have conquered it very well, being island nations. So there is no travel, problems. So people cannot go by car, so that disease is not spread, and also are headed by women. So I'm very glad that Kamala Harris is going to be our VP candidate for United States. Women have the agility, have the strength, and the iron mind to lead a nation. So having said that, I'm going to my next slide. So most Western countries are in the same COVID trajectory. For example, Germany and Sweden, they curtain very well as little country like Lithuania, which is in the Russian, Eastern European zone. So we should look at their policies for US, Brazil, and India. So India, like US, is a divided country between Republican and Democrats. Some wear masks, some do not, and there's a lot of things going on with the present presidency. So and opening up schools and so on. We have 56 million school students in the United States and 1.5 million teachers that are 50 years or over. So they might get the disease. So there's a lot of debate going on. All we can do is to prove it by data, and I'm going to show it. And I am fortunate enough to write the guidelines for United States, which can be applied to rest of the world. So before Q&A, I would like to show my website, then we'll go to Q&A. So you all have heard from me as I shared my first-hand experience on how I built a career in data science in the last 3 decades and what it's like to work in the field today. I shared piece of advice and valuable lessons pulled together from personal experience while learning data science and working both independently and within a larger team of data scientists. So I will go back to my website to show you the work on end coronavirus. So please bear with me. Thank you for your time and attention. To show you the work on end coronavirus. So how is it going? Thank you for your time
Thank you, madam.
and attention. To show you the work. So I'm going to share the screen now. So how is it going?
Okay.
Thank you for your time
Thank you, madam.
and attention. We have about 9:15 here, so we have 15 minutes. Oh, okay. Is time good? We have about 9:15 here, so we have 15 minutes. Okay. Okay, this is the organization I'm working with. It's called endcoronavirus.org.
The screen is not coming.
It is not. Okay, let me go back.
Yeah.
Okay, this is the organization I'm working with. It's called endcoronavirus.org.
The screen is not coming.
Yeah, let me show you this.
Yeah, it's coming.
Okay. So this is an organization called endcoronavirus.org. www.endcoronavirus.org. Yeah, let me show you this. It's a big advocacy group consisting of data scientists, professors from MIT, Harvard, UCLA, and across the globe. So I volunteered my time, and this is a very important. School means in US, it could mean a grade school, it could mean a college, or it could mean mean university. They call it school here. So school reopening applies to any school across the world. So based on data analysis, I was fortunate to be here as a writer for this important document that's going to be presented to the Congress, which is the parliament in US, and senators are looking at it. Because if they open up the schools, the spread of the virus would be more. There'll be more litigation, more death, and in order to prevent more tragedy, this is an important document. So just I wanted to show you the proof of the pie by using data science, how we were able to draft this on August 10th. I am here, Shakuntala Chaudhary, and I also included my son, Abhishek, and my nephew, Niloy Medhi, training them to be data scientists so they can follow the footsteps of their grandfather, Jyoti Prasad Medhi. So how safely schools can reopen? See, you have to eliminate the community transmission that's going to happen. And higher education is where college and universities come. Can you see it? See, you have to eliminate the community and there's a big risk of reopening early. Today we are facing the new world order. There's risk, there's crisis in, education, crisis in healthcare, crisis in finance, and crisis in religion and race in US. But COVID-19 is a disease that doesn't know any language, doesn't know any color of the skin. It attacks everybody, from children to 90-year-old. So this is a very scary disease. We do not know much about it. There's no herd immunity, and so this is spreading the disease in people is not a good idea. COVID-19 infection occurs in schools and can lead to outbreaks. So I am showing some good examples from Israel, and then here comes, once they open, it's steady, and then it goes up. So our thing is to bring the curve down or crush the curve, and it's never normal distribution in statistics. Probably the binomial and Weibull distribution, which is the bathtub curve. So you have the medicine, the disease goes down, people do not follow the social distancing, it will go up. So it looks like a bathtub. That is what the distribution would look like. Then New England, which is in New Jersey, New York, and all of Northeast, we are in the green zone right now. Thanks to all the healthcare workers, the telecom workers that kept the internet going, so people can do telemedicine or Zoom calls or Google Talk to continue the economy. Then in Indiana, which is in the middle of US, and they opened and they reported their first COVID case. So it's very hard to open online, in-person class. So Texas is very bad right now in evacuation. Their hospitals are overwhelmed. There's no ICU beds to keep people. They're opening outside like field hospitals, like at Sorosodai Stadium in Guwahati. So the healthcare is overwhelmed. The doctors are getting it. Nurses are getting and dying from COVID. So we have to continue this mode of online teaching going forward, at least for 2 years. And that's what Bill Gates also said that. And that's the reason Microsoft, Amazon, and Google are giving the open platform to use data science and APIs and to curb the problem. APIs are apps that are in the computer, you can scrape data from websites. So who are at risk? The children, the teachers, the professors, the school staff. And that means communities are at risk. Children will bring it home and then the whole town will get. So it poses a very important and special risk. Even Harvard University is not opening to the mass of students when they open on the 24th of August. My university, they are not opening at all. They're doing online because teachers are scared to go to work. They don't want to die. And when you die, you lose the knowledge. My father passed away at the age of 93. Bhupen Hazarika passed away in the 90s. So he had propagated his knowledge for the 30 years after attaining important accomplishment at age 60. So you need a longevity to propagate knowledge. So nobody wants to die. And so reopening would be a big issue across the world. A lot of things going on right now. And you can also look at Indian data. If anybody knows any source of data that's similar to John Hopkins for India alone, I would appreciate that because we would like to put an India map on this important website. So next step for family is challenging time, many difficult choice, food, scarcity of medical equipment, PPE, supply chain disruptions, and we will need digital tools. So you see the word digital and web-based service is going to foster in this next 2 years. So we have to do distance learning, and that will help us. And so next step for school administrators like Dr. Gogoi is to, help me with some data for India so I can put the India map and Duliajan on this important website that is accessed by FEMA, Federal Emergency Management, the US Senate, the world across and everywhere. And mostly it's made up of people of Israeli and Jewish origin. They have similar thinking power like Indians. We value education and family and life and longevity of life. As knowledge grows, people get more experience. So this is my thought and wanted to share with you. So let me go back to the Q&A.
Yeah. So we have a number of questions for you, ma'am.
Yes.
Should I read out? So let me go back to the Q&A. Bhaskar Pathak. What are the scope of data science in northeastern India for you, ma'am? Especially with respect to job. Scope of data science in north. Bhaskar Pathak.
Okay, do you want me to put that slide there or no need?
And just go through. Actually, you have covered it, but anyway, you can just explain.
Because I'm not seeing the question, right? Should I look at the questions or?
The question is, I'm reading it out.
Okay.
There are a lot of questions. That's why.
Yeah, take some pictures. I just see my. Because I'm not seeing the question.
Yeah.
Right?
What are the scope of data science in Northeast India? I'm reading it out.
Yeah. So I don't need to put the slide. Let's keep it like this where you can see. Joyanta, I can see you and a few others. Okay. Northeast India, there's a vast opportunity for data science. When any project come from, US or anywhere, it goes to other parts of India, Telangana, Andhra Pradesh, Delhi. We don't get the piece of the pie. And there's vast opportunity to use data science in Assam in terms of agriculture, growth of tea garden, where you can use experimental design, curbing the Brahmaputra flood, looking at the width of the river at Pandu, where the width is very small, where the dredging could be done. Up in Dhubri, if we can get the data, some of data is done through World Health Organization, and but nothing has been done. And I think there's a huge demand demand and huge budget for rural development in Modi's budget. That's the reason he spent money on the Bhupen Hazarika Bridge, so he can send frontiers to soldiers to the frontier, Patton tanks and others going to Arunachal Pradesh. That Chinese claiming, so that's for national defense. So we can use that for flood control. The other people, one of Assamese origin engineer, Dr. Sosi Mojumdar, he owns the Procreed gas and he's always seen at the All India Duliajan office. He's currently in Nigeria. So petroleum technology and oil fuels could use data science, the flood control and the defense, and as well as the tea gardens. And the last but not the least, my father did a project on handloom survey of India, and he got the fund from the Home Ministry at the time, Jawaharlal Nehru's time. When I was a little child, it was as a whole work. It's always good to give back to the humanity, and that's the reason Swalkusi is called the Manchester of the East, producing the textiles. So 5 areas. Having said that, I just want to mention one of my friend, and that's here. He opened a consulting firm called Ecodas Inc. In Guwahati. They have offices in Noida, Guwahati, and New Jersey. And I'm kind of the advisor, helping him, and probably I'll be giving some training online through them, and that will be in New Jersey. And since colleges have the university grant commission funds, it could be an opportunity to teach them, and we have some programmers there that can do the low-lying work of Java web scraping, get the data, and that will employ Assamese youth that do not have the opportunity to study outside of Assam. So they went to Assam Indian College or the Duliajan Institute of Engineering in Guwahati and so forth. And there is one company, another one called Tech Variable. So they went to Assam Indian College. They have been contacting me a lot. They are doing some machine learning model for Singapore to Asia Pacific. So some of the students I could hook them up with them, so they can get the training and the skills for the next 10 to 15 years. It's a very lucrative field, and we Assamese can bring contribution in the oil industry, in flood control, national defense for India, the handloom industry, and I'm wearing the Assamese part that my mother gave me. She always wear Assam. But even playing golf in US, she was wearing the Assamese mekla chadar. And I'll share the photo later on with my vote of thanks. And as well as the tea industry and agriculture. And all these migrant workers, for what reason they go to Gujarat to work and coming back to Assam and spreading the disease, and as well as the tea. They can expend the time. They don't need to do that. They can do everything in their own homeland and cultivate their own agriculture. Don't be ashamed to be a farmer, because you are going to use technology like data science, Google platform, other supply chain platforms that I can tell you about later, and become a very technology data enthusiast farmer. That's nothing harm about that. You don't have to be a third person worker in Gujarat refinery or somewhere and come back to Assam during the crisis because nobody is giving them food or lodging. So they brought the disease back to Assam. So we should be self-sufficient, even as Assam and Northeast all together. And I'm planning to give this talk at the Assam University. Dr. Nath, who was my advisor for my PhD thesis and my professor, he could not attend today because he's on another webinar, and he's doing some important clinical research and had guided me to a doctor at All India Institute of Medical Science to look at comorbidity for South Asians, which include Pakistan, Bangladesh, and India, and how, because diabetes is the big effect for COVID as well as heart disease. And I know some of my school juniors from St. Mary's passed away because of diabetes and COVID in Guwahati. So let us go to other questions. So
Yeah, we have a lot of questions actually.
yeah,
A lot of the next question I am reading out actually. It is from Leon G. I don't know, the full name is not coming. Is it necessary that we have to earn expertise in computer science? Is not it statistics and economics with just basic computer knowledge enough? Full name is not coming. Is it necessary that we have
then
to
you won't be in the
earn
advanced level, but
expertise
you'll be in the
computer
intermediate
science?
level.
Is not
But
it
it will still give you,
statistics and
you know,
economics with just basic
expertise
computer knowledge
in your
enough?
own domain. For example, if you work at Food Corporation of India, and knowing the knowledge of statistics, data science can secure a job. You can do some dashboards where is the food scarcity, what is needed for quarantining. So anybody can do it. They can do the intermediate level. Even school children need to know. And pictures are always the best form of what is needed. Picture and music are the best form of educating the masses, right? If you have to educate the people at grassroots level, it's always graphs, charts, and music. So you can always use the basic knowledge, and there are a lot of GUI interface. If you have to educate the people at if you can look at another language which is called, so you can always use the basic knowledge, and there are a lot of GUI interface. It's called, what is it called? Jupyter. If you can look at another Jupyter, the word Jupyter comes from called, when you call Python, there's Jupyter notebook, right? There are a lot of GUI interface. It's called, what is it called? Jupyter. If you can look at Jupyter, the word Jupyter comes from. Take a look at Google, okay? Python, the best search, right, for searching. Jupyter notebook. The word Jupyter came from Ju for Julia. Julia is a language very highly used in India now. J for Julia. Jupyter notebook. The word Jupyter came from P for Python. Julia is a language very highly used in India now. J for Julia, R for R. Jupyter notebook. The word Jupyter came from P for Python. Julia is a language very highly used in India now. J for Julia, R for R. So J for Julia. Julia is highly used because a lot of the software from US and because of the GDPR in Europe cannot be used in India. They are blocking. When I was in India last year during my mother's sickness, I tried to log into SAS from India, but it would not allow. It says not allowed because it could track your IP address. You know what IP address is, right? But you can always use Julia. So take a look at it, okay? But it would not allow. And Python, and if they're giving free training, I'll let you know. IP addresses, right? But you can always use Julia. So I think data analytics, data science should be included in the college and university curriculums in Assam. Training, I'll let you because there's a lot of opportunity for the Seven Sisters and the Northeast. And none of the other states like Mizoram, which is one of the most literate states in India, after Kerala, they do not have data science. So I'm trying to propagate that knowledge to the central university called Assam University. Actually, Dr. Nath had asked me to come, but because of the pandemic, there's no air travel between US and India and so on and so forth. But something might happen next year, who knows? While, and hopefully I can land in Duliajan and go from Duliajan to Silchar and come back to US and India and so to meet you in person, right?
Yeah. So we
Okay,
have
next question.
next question. How do we store data locally? Right at our home means local server. How can we store? Yeah. So we
Okay,
have
next question.
Next question.
Put in your computer,
How
but
do
computers
we
might,
store data locally?
crash because of
Right at our
fluctuation
home
in
means
electricity.
local server.
Then lose your
How can
data.
we
So
store
create a Google Drive or a
data
OneDrive. If you have
locally?
Microsoft
Next
Outlook,
question.
you can get a free access to certain gigabytes. You can store it there and you can access from anywhere. Then lose your data. Or Google Drive. They are called Google Drive for Google. I'll put it there. You can get a free access. That's free right now because of the pandemic. Take advantage of that. And you can access from anywhere. Google Drive or OneDrive. For Google, I'll put it there. Microsoft Outlook. You can get a free. Microsoft right now, because of the pandemic, is going to be the leader in analytics going forward. It's a company envisioned by Bill Gates, who is putting money onto vaccine development. Microsoft, he loves India. He sponsored the National Health Survey of India, which was paid off by Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. So there are a lot of resources he's giving out for machine learning. And so if you want to excel, try to learn more about Google Cloud, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and also Microsoft. And so if you want to excel, try to learn. And I could always guide you as a thought leader, for some little. And also Microsoft. What do we want to do? AWS Google for a strong story. Try to learn. And I could always guide you as a thought leader, for some little. Then I buy a hard drive and save it there too, separately from your laptop. AWS Google for a strong story. Try to learn. And I could always guide if you do not want to put in the cloud, okay? OneDrive and Google are cloud. Cloud are very safe, the most safest. AWS Google for a strong story. And they give you free access with your Google account or your Microsoft account. AWS is a behemoth. They want to conquer the world, but they are not specialized. Microsoft is, Google is. And they give you free access with they're very intelligent people working. Amazon is doing the AWS, and they're more concentrating on self-driven cars, neural network, all that deals with electrical engineers or physicists. But for the common people, I would suggest Google and Microsoft resources. Neural network, all that deals with
We have a number of
electrical
questions from
engineers or
Dr. Ranjan
physicists.
Kumar
But for the
Bhagavati.
common
He is
people,
from Oil India
I would
Limited.
suggest Google and Microsoft.
A number of questions are this. So first question, madam, what according to you have been the positive of the Indian initiative to manage COVID-19? A number of questions are this. Indian scenario in managing COVID-19, what is your opinion? The positive of the Indian initiative to manage COVID-19. A number of questions are this. Indian Nur Salam is presenting his screen. Please not do it. Opinion. The positive of the Indian initiative to manage. Madam, we are not having your voice. Indian Nur Salam is presenting his screen. Please not do it.
When India declared, the executive order March 18th, I believe, and they did it early on. In case of US, it was done much later. They thought it is like common flu, so disease already started killing people that got to US on January 21st. So India did the curbing very early. They imposed all these curfews and gave fines and disciplinary action for people who are not observing social distancing. That was very positive. But India's virus is a little different, and according to our study, you'll see a lot of cases in November, December. That will be the social distancing. For US, New York, New Jersey, the peak was in March. But India's so it hasn't gone, and then the second one will come. You'll see a lot of cases in November. So those measures are very important, but in US you cannot force people. This is a country where the First Amendment gives respect to everybody's individuality. It's not a country that where people all could be mandated, like in China, South Korea, or India. So it's a little different situation. That's why we have to get into the grassroots level in US to get to the people's mind that this is a deliberating disease that could wipe out humanity and the knowledge. That's why we have to get into the grassroots level. So India did a good job. I just need to look at Indian data. I'm waiting to talk to Dr. Nath and Dr. Verma at All India Institute of Medical Science. science. Thank you. So India did a good job. I just need to look at Indian data. I'm waiting to talk to
So
Dr.
we have
and Dr.
another question.
Ranjan, right?
Yeah, from Ranjan
Thank
Bhagavati.
you.
The number
Is
of
he an
questions.
engineer?
No, he is a biotechnologist,
Oh,
oil India Limited. Another
Ra-
question. He is
Ranjan,
also
right?
a member of our IQAC board
Thank you.
of Duliajan
Is he an engineer?
very keen about
Oh,
your activities actually. Lot of questions here, but I would like to go to another question by
thank you. Is he
Giri.
an engineer?
In modeling on COVID-19, is modeling on COVID-19 involved inequality index? Modeling in COVID-19 involved inequality modeling on COVID-19.
Right now, we are looking at population density. That is a big trigger. Closer people are, that causes inequality in income. We're looking at the poverty level. Right now, but not in inequality of races. We cannot use that. That will lead to a lot of litigation. That's why we're not looking at COVID-19 in terms of its effect on Asian American, Indian Americans, Black American, Hispanic, and so on and so forth. That will bring a big can of war, and it will lose all the good things that Mahatma Gandhi and Martin Luther King taught, about equality of races. So that inequality has not been included in the modeling, and nor any kind of gender, because people could be, we always know it's men and women, but there are other genders nowadays in the world. So this will lead to Supreme Court battles. So inequality in income, yes, we can use. Inequality in healthcare, resources like insurance, yes, we can use, but not the gender and the race. At least in US in the present time.
Yes, we can use inequality in healthcare.
Thank you. That's a good question.
Okay, then we have another question. Kritik question Devnath. With the explosion of data,
At least in US.
how to distinguish between the correct and the false data? Fake
Thank you.
data.
That's a good question.
How to distinguish? Okay, then we have another question. Correct and false data. With the explosion of data,
So we have to make
distinguish
sure,
between
somehow
the correct and the
from
false
social
data.
media, whether it is a real person putting the
Okay, then
data
we
or a
have
bot,
another correct
which
and
a robot
false
goes
data.
there and, like the calls we get.
So
So there is a lot of
make sure, somehow
research going on
from social
regarding
media, whether
fake
it is a
news
real
and real
person
news.
putting the data or a bot.
So the authenticity of
which
the
a robot
website
goes
where you
there and,
collect the data is
like
very
the calls we
important.
get. So
And
there is
look
a
at
lot of
emails, whether it's coming from .org or .gov or .edu. Those are very,
so the
very
authenticity of
safe.
the website
Okay,
where you collect the data
so you
is
have to
very
look at the
important.
emails or
And look at
the
emails,
URLs
from
of those
.org or
websites where the data
.gov
comes from
or
before you
edu. Those
scrape
are
the data,
very
because there could be a lot
very
of data
safe.
going on
Okay.
around which are fake,
So you have to look at the emails
misinformation,
or the
and it's a big challenge right now.
URLs from
So data
.org
that I use are
where the
from
data comes
edus,
from or edu.
from
Very
.net,
because there could be a lot of
.edu,
data going on around
.org,
which are fake,
and so and so, and .gov.
and it's a big challenge right
Are
now.
the
So data that
good
I
data
use are
because they
from
have put a lot of
EDUs,
levels of
.net,
blockchain technology
.edu,
and
.org,
cybersecurity
and
firewalls.
and .gov, and it's a big challenge right now.
Are the
So data that
good
I
data
use
because
So
they
we
have
have another
levels of
question
blockchain
from Ranjan Kumar
technology
Bhagavati.
and
Are the
cybersecurity
algorithms protected
firewalls.
by any IPR?
Are the so data that I use
So we
IPR
have
meaning what is it?
another question.
of
Intellectual
blockchain,
property rights,
technology,
I think. Are the
cybersecurity.
algorithms protected by any
Algorithm like
IPR?
the one I showed you for telecom. It is
Yeah.
protected by
IPR meaning
Verizon. That's why I
what is
didn't
it?
want to show you any data.
Intellectual property rights, yeah, I think.
I cannot.
Are the
They'll come
algorithms
after me. I'm
protected
still
by
a
any
Verizon
IPR?
Like the one
stockholder,
I showed you for
or AT&T
telecom.
stockholder.
It is protected
And
by Verizon.
also,
That's why I
so
didn't want to show
anything
you.
you do for corporation
Yeah,
cannot be
I
shared.
cannot.
But anything you
They'll
do
come
for
after me. I'm
research
still a
or
Verizon stockholder,
advocacy group
or
or
AT&T
NGOs
stockholder.
can be shared
And
for
also,
public
so
good.
anything you do for corporation
So
cannot be
another
shared.
question from Kosik
But
Sandilyo.
anything you do for
What are the
research or
prerequisites of
advocacy
a
group or
tech
NGOs can be
startup,
shared for
technological
public
startup?
good. Anything you do for
Prerequisites
corporation
of
cannot
a
be
tech
shared.
startup. From Kosik
As tech
Sandilyo.
startup, you have to
What
have
are the
your business plan in
prerequisites
mind,
of a
what you want
tech
to
startup,
achieve,
technological
and see the
startup?
key participants,
Prerequisite to
a
understand
draft that,
As tech
what do you call
startup,
it,
you
like
have to have
business
your business
canvas,
plan in mind
and
and
where
what
you
you
want to
want to
be
achieve
resourceful in terms
and
of
see the
data,
key
and what value do you
participants.
propose to the
A draft that, as tech
what do you call
startup,
it,
you
like
have to
to
have
the
your business plan in mind
corporations
and
that
where
will
you
be
want
doing
to
the work
be
for.
resourceful in terms
And
of
see the
data
key
and what value do
So
you
the first step
propose
is
to
always a
the
business plan or
draft that,
business canvas.
as tech startup, you have to have
To
your
the
business plan in mind.
okay.
corporations that
Then
will
you
be
have to
doing
draw
the
your
work for.
data model where the data is coming from, where you're
And what
funneling
value
it,
do
so the
what
first
kind
step
of
is always a
servers you're
business
keeping
plan or
it
business
and
canvas.
where it is going to.
To the
Okay.
then you have to draw your data
And
model
you
where
have
the data is
And
coming
come up with
from, where
some
you're
kind of
funneling it.
ideas like,
So the
what
first
kind
step
of
is always
tech
a business
startup,
plan
like you
or
look at tech
and
variable,
where it
you'll
is
get
going
some
to.
ideas. They're operating from Guwahati and
Then you have
Delhi
to draw
office,
your
and
data
and
model
you
where
have
the data is
it's
coming
owned
from,
by
where you're funneling it.
Assamese.
So the first step is always
Tech
a business
startup,
plan
like you look at tech
and
variable,
where it
you'll
is
get
going
some
so
to.
we have
ideas.
another
They're
question
operating
from
from Guwahati and Delhi
Nidusri
office, and
Bora.
it's
Is it safe
owned by
to reopen the
Assamese.
colleges
Tech
now?
startup, like you
And
look at tech
two
variable,
questions
you'll
that are
get some
put together. We have
ideas.
another question.
They're
And is it
operating
okay
from
to get degrees without
Guwahati and
exam?
Delhi office.
Nidusri Bora. Is it safe to reopen?
It's
And
owned by
second
Assamese.
question is it okay to get the degrees without exam? Two questions that are put together. Of course, and
Yeah,
is
I
it
think
okay
I
to
showed
get
you the
degrees without exam?
endcoronavirus.org. Right
Is
now,
it
we
safe
don't have a
to reopen?
vaccine.
And
People are
reopen the
dying,
colleges?
cases are
Is it
going
okay
up.
to get the degrees without
So
exam?
our advice or guideline is not to open it right
Yeah, I
now.
think I showed you the
And it is very
endcoronavirus.org.
easy
Right
to
now,
do
we don't have a
online
vaccine.
work
People are
for,
dying, cases
I
are
would
going up.
say, 12
So
to
our advice or
onward.
guideline
It's
is
very
not to
hard for
open
little
it.
kids to
Right
learn
now, I think I
online.
showed you the
They need the
endcoronavirus.org.
interaction,
It is very
to
easy
play
to
together.
do online
So like
work
kindergarten,
for,
Montessori school,
I
grade
would
schools should be
say,
open.
12 to
But
our
again,
advice or
it has to be
guideline is
limited,
not
like
to
maybe
open it.
5 kids
Right
one
now, I think
day,
I showed you the
4 kids another
endcoronavirus.org.
day,
It is
all
very
sitting
easy to do
12 foot
online.
apart.
So like kindergarten,
But
Montessori
for
school,
grade
I would
schools should
say,
be older students, high
but
school
again, it
students,
has to
and
be limited, like maybe
anybody
5
going
kids one
towards the
day,
PhD, it's
4
very
kids
feasible
another
to
day, all
do.
sitting
You
12
have
foot
all your
apart.
time, as long as you
Kindergarten,
have a
Montessori
very
school,
strong bandwidth with
older
internet, you can do
students,
it.
high school students,
And
and
I do not like the
anybody going towards
idea
the
about
PhD, it's very feasible
just
to do.
exam. In US, they
You
also
have
do
your
it by
all your time,
thesis.
as long as you have
You can
a
be
very
research
strong
and
bandwidth with
get your
internet, you can
degree,
do
the
it.
thesis
And
or
I do not like
dissertation for a
the
master's,
idea
which
about
you can do on your
just
own
exam. In US, they also
time
have your
with
all your
practical
time, as long as you have
you can be
very
research
strong bandwidth with
guidance, and
get
that
your
shows you
degree,
how you
the
read it. It's
thesis
not about by
or
hearting. In
dissertation
India,
for a
most of
master's,
the work is
which you
by
can
hearting
do
the
on your own
memorizing
time
formulas,
with
memorizing
practical
this and that.
so
So I
very
think
strong guidance, and that
the
shows you
way
how you read.
education should be,
It's not
there
about
should
by
be
hearting. In
online
India, most of
discussions,
the work is by hearting on your
participation,
memorizing
some
formulas,
quizzes to
memorizing this
see
and
if you're
that.
alert, because there
So
might
I
be
think
people that are just
and that the way
uh,
education should be, it's not
sitting in
about
your
the
class but
online
not paying
discussions. Most
attention.
of the work is
So understand their
participation,
alertness, but I
some
think it can be
quizzes
achieved
to
to get
see
at
if you're
least a
alert.
master's degree
So
to
there might be
dissertation
people
or
that
a
are just
thesis,
the way
having
education
a
should be sitting in your class but
designated
not paying attention. So understand their alertness,
uh,
but
you
I
know,
think it can be achieved
professor who will be good
to
there
get at least
for
a
tea
master's degree
industry
to
using
dissertation
data
or a
science because he has a
thesis.
botany background,
Having sitting in
and
your
then this
class
could be
but
done.
not paying attention.
I think that is
So
the mode
understand
should
their
be used.
alertness, but I think it can be achieved
Professor,
to
for
be good there
example,
for
Harvard,
tea
one of the
industry
premier
using
Ivy
data
League
science because
institutions
he has
and
a
one
botany
of the world's
background. And
oldest,
then this
has
could be done.
opened up
I think
to
that
the
is the mode
freshmen
should be
because new
used.
college graduate need to know
Professor. For example,
students,
Harvard,
and it's
one
closed
of
for
the premier
everybody
Ivy
else,
League
and it's only
institutions and
open
one of the
for
world's
PhD students. They
oldest,
can do
has opened
online
up
research.
to the freshmen
So it is
because new
doable. So
college
exam
graduate
is,
need to
and by
know.
hearting
For example,
or
Harvard,
it's not
closed
the
for
solution,
everybody
it's more
else,
practical
and it's
knowledge
only open for
PhD students they
oldest,
can do
has
and
opened
how you
up
can solve a
to
world
the
problem.
freshmen
So it is
because new
doable. So
college
exam
graduate
is,
It's a
and by
very important
hearting
question
students
from one
or
of
it's
the
not the solution, it's more
student
practical
rather,
knowledge.
Avinash Dotto.
PhD students they can do
Hi
online.
And how
madam,
you can
I have
solve
worked
a
on
world
various
problem.
So it is doable. So exam is and by
ML
hearting
projects including natural language generation and computer vision. The models that are developed are quite computationally expensive. Because of this, it is difficult to make it accessible in form, format, etc. Vision for the common people. The models that are developed, how can we make AI accessible to all? Because of this, it is difficult to make it
Can I ask you what
in
language you are
form,
looking at,
format,
like
etc. Vision for the
Python,
common people. The
Pandas?
models that are developed,
They
how
have all
can
this
we
accessible
make
across the world.
AI
I don't know
accessible
about.
to all? Because of this, how
Can
can we
I don't
make
know if
AI
it is
accessible
available
to
in
all?
India. I'm not sure.
Python,
But
Pandas.
I wrote about another software called Julia. Google that. That is the one that's used a lot in India right now to make machine learning algorithms available in open source for India. So code has to be written in Julia. Julia. Can you Google it? And if you are talking about SaaS, it's like a $1 million investment. The algorithms are very safe. Nobody can steal it, but that's very expensive. So for Indian platform, what I learned, Julia is the best one. That's accessible to the masses. Algorithms are very safe. Nobody can steal it.
So we are running.
That's very expensive. So
We are running out
for
of
Indian
time. So we
platform,
have a
what I
question from.
learned, Julia is the best one. That's accessible to the masses. Algorithms are very safe. Nobody can steal it. Okay.
We are running. So considering the recent events, because it is an important question, that's why I would want to ask you. Considering the recent events of Bagjan, how do you plan to use data science for disasters such as that of Bagjan in the future? That you have suggested, madam, but how to use it? What kind of data we need to gather? Data science for disasters for future
Yeah,
management.
probably
Bagjan test.
biometric pressure,
That you have suggested,
of
madam.
the gas that comes
How
out
to
of
use it?
the,
What kind
the
of data
soil
we need to gather?
biology will tell you a lot.
Here.
So it will be like soil biology, biometric pressure of the natural gas. Soil biology is very important for that area where the oil is found in Assam. So it will be like soil biology, biometric pressure of the natural gas. Soil biology is very important for that area where I'm sure somewhere in oil India they have all this. The British have done very detailed job when they started all these oil fields in Assam. I'm sure somewhere in oil India they have all this. The British have done very detailed, as well as comorbid condition like people around the oil fields. Do they have any respiratory problems like asthma or something? Because the smell of the oil would make, the gas would make them, as well as comorbid condition like people around the oil fields. Do they have demographics of the people like asthma or something? Because the smell of the oil would make, the gas would make them. Demographics could be one. Then you can do a survey to self-collect data on psychographics, how people feel about it. They might feel claustrophobic, wearing a mask and living near the oil field. Some people are very scared, are scared to wear masks because they think they cannot breathe. And if they live around the oil well, that could be another data source. So that's why I'm suggesting and Dr. Gogoi, as an initiative with Duliajan College, forget the Brugge University, Duliajan College being in Duliajan, come with an initiative, a proposal where you can collect the data and we can use some of our local talents. I can train them and we can, propose this to the rural development budget for BJP, Modi, and then go forward. Because you guys have the internet, there's time in people's, and it'll be something for public good. Because we do not want to have things that happen like in Bhopal, Union Carbide, now in Baghdad. That's a very big tragedy. And the effect could be longer. People may have a lot of problem breathing, and COVID is a respiratory disease at the beginning. So those would be very useful data, I think.
and the
Thank
effect
you,
could be
madam.
long.
So Kaushik
So,
Sandil, where are you
From
from?
them breathing, and COVID is a respiratory disease at the beginning.
Kaushik
So people
Sandil,
should be
what
very
company
used
are
to
you
it,
from?
I
All
think.
India or?
And the
thank
effect
you,
could be
madam.
So
long.
Kaushik
Kaushik
Sandillo,
Sandil, where are you
Yeah.
from?
From them breathing,
He said
are
he
you
will
and
be
there?
COVID is a respiratory disease at the
He is
beginning.
a student.
Kaushik
So
Sandil,
people
a
should be
student
very
at
used
where?
to it.
At your college, right?
I don't know actually.
Okay.
Kaushik Sandillo,
Okay, thank
Sandillo,
you.
you can write. Yes, yes,
He
he
said
is
he will
from
be
Duliajan College. He is a student.
a student at
So
where?
I have a
At your
question, madam,
college, right?
from my side, Joyanto. I don't know actually.
Okay.
Kaushik Sandillo,
Okay, thank
Sandillo,
you.
you can write. We have lot of questions to answer, but I want to ask you a question on COVID-19. So I have a question, madam, on COVID-19. Because you have been gathering so much data from
Okay,
all
thank
across
you.
the world, on the world. Questions to answer, but I want to ask you a what is your view regarding the situation among the because poor marks actually, so much data from in Dharavi. Do you have any data from Dharavi in Bombay, Mumbai? What is
That's what
your
I like
view
to
regarding
collect,
the
slum, right?
yeah,
Slum
slum
area,
areas among
disadvantaged
what
population.
is going on in the slum areas, or
Yeah,
particularly our
first we
rural
are
areas
trying
in
to,
Dharavi? Do you have any
at
data from
first we are
Dharavi
trying
in
to
Bombay?
see what data we have from US
What
Census
is
in
your
US.
view
And
regarding
those are
the
called the metropolitan
slum
statistical
areas,
area.
among
New York is
going on in
one,
the slum
Los
areas, or
Angeles, where
particularly
there are a
our
lot of,
rural areas in
I would not
Dharavi?
use the word poor, I would say disadvantaged people. They
Yeah,
do
yeah.
not have equality of income, equality of healthcare, equality of food, and 70% of India's masses live in that disadvantaged population. Once I developed the model, we are thinking about two states right now, Wisconsin and South Carolina, where there are Republican governors. We want to develop the model because that couldn't be implemented across the world. Then I'll look at Mumbai slums too.
Yep.
I have no idea what kind of data exists in India. Is anybody there, or even Kaushik Sandilya, can you look at and see if there is any map of India that shows the data like John Hopkins does for the
Yeah,
world?
we have a COVID meter
Is
actually.
anybody
You know
there, or even
the Ministry
it
of
should be a government website,
yeah,
probably.
yeah, the government actually Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, they are showing certain data, but not exactly from Mumbai Dharavi, rather than state-wise. They
It
are
should be a
publishing the
government
data.
website.
Yeah, yeah, the government actually Ministry of
Yeah,
Health or Assam,
because they live in close
showing certain
quarters in
data,
very
but
small
not
area,
exactly
so
from
that
small
will
data.
transmit the
Very
disease.
we are some of the information that we are getting from some of the reporters only, not from government sources. For Assam,
Because they
fatality
live in
rate and
close quarters
mortality
in
rate
very
are
small
very
area,
low.
so that will transmit
Safe,
the
it is
disease.
safe, but how far it is reliable, those data I don't know. That's why
I
I
cannot
was
trust like
wondering.
India and China data right now
Fatality
because
rate
people
and
don't go.
mortality
There
rate
was a South
are very
Indian, some
low.
kind of parliament
Safe,
member
it
who
is safe, but
had COVID, but she went
how
in
far
public,
it is reliable, those
not
data I don't
quarantining,
know.
not
That's
telling,
why I was
right?
wondering.
But another thing could be the hygiene, and also one important thing to remember when the BCG vaccine came out, for TB, and India, we always get it when children are born, and that is for TB, and that is helping the Indians from dying because that's just highly and India immunity for COVID also. And at that time, only developing and poor countries like Africa, India used to get those vaccines. And all the rich country like, G8 nations except Japan decided not to take the vaccine. So they don't give BCG. And those are the countries that are most affected. France, Italy, US, G8 nations except Japan decided not to take the vaccine with the BCG vaccine. And India is one of the world's largest manufacturer of vaccine. Serum Institute of in India, which is in Mumbai, I believe, is creating some vaccine for COVID-19. It's 1.5 billion vials per year, and their vaccine is developed at Oxford and AstraZeneca, one Swiss pharmaceutical. And that vaccine will be available to the developing country and third world. So I think the BCG vaccine
that Indians had in the slums of Mumbai, plus the Indian food habit of haldi, okra, which is the lady finger, keeps building your immunity, and also the personal hygiene, always washing the hair, this and that, So personal hygiene is very important, and I think that is saving the slum dwellers from reaching that always washing mortality rate, this and that, I would like to work on some data and produce that in the end coronavirus map, something from slum dwellers from working on it, reaching that
Thank you, madam.
mortality. Yeah, can you put the website you said about the government website? I would like to work on some the name of the website on the link.
This is simple. Government of India, you can go to Ministry of Health and Family Welfare.
Yeah, can you put the website?
In Google, you will get it.
About the government.
Okay,
all right.
yeah, you can type and you can get it.
Yeah.
This is simple. Government of India, you can go to.
So we can have another. Time is running out, right? So we can have another session to answer the other questions.
Yeah.
Okay.
There-
Q&A,
we have a lot of
brainstorming.
questions left actually. A lot of questions left. This is simple.
Yeah.
So
So we can
we'll
have
have to think about
another.
it, but
Time is running out.
out.
So we can have another.
So with this,
So what we can do, we can do a brainstorming session with the questions and people from Duliajan College and Oil India, and formalize that project for Bagjan.
With this,
So what we can do a brainstorming and then present it to Modi. Maybe he'll give the funding from Duliajan College and Oil India, and formalize. Right now, professors and educators would, are the subject matter expert along with medical doctors. So and then present it to people will listen to teachers and listen to doctors. So if you can get involved, Sanko and some other medical officer, chief medical officer, and listen to doctors.
we'll try our level best.
We will try
and Sanko and some other medical officer, chief medical officer, and listen to doctors. So we can do another brainstorming session after 2 weeks.
Yeah, definitely.
To look at
Definitely.
answer other people's question, because we had about 136 people that joined from across, from Dubai to Bangalore. My in-laws people, they also joined. Assam, Silchar, everywhere. So it's 133 people, I think, joined. So there might be questions we don't want it to be unanswered. So people who joined and had the question, we can invite them.
Definitely.
People.
We'll have one session definitely.
So there might be
maybe 1 or
questions we
2
don't
weeks.
want it to be unanswered. Yeah, end of August when school opens. Let's see how the data is. Then we can advise for Assam also. Don't open it immediately.
We'll have one. Thank you, ma'am. So we'll be wrapping up now.
End of
We'll go to the last actually, item of today's webinar.
then we can advise for We still have 75 people. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah. Thank you.
And
Just
also,
wait, ma'am.
we'll answer the
Wrapping up now. Wait, ma'am. We have another actually item. Vote of thanks is yet to be given.
We still have
So I
75
request
people.
now,
Thank you so much for your
HOD,
time.
Computer department,
And
just
also,
Duliajan
we'll
College,
answer the
wrapping up with Olaka Deka. We have forward with her vote of thanks. Vote of thanks is yet to be
Thank you.
Deka. So I request now,
Thank you,
computer department,
Mr. Jointa Doctor. A warm and graceful
we
evening
have forward
to our honorable resource person, Dr. Sakuntala Chaudhary, our principal, Dr. Lokikas Gogoi, and everyone gathered here. Thank you, Dr. Sakuntala Chaudhary, for enlightening us on the latest development in the world of data science. Data science is truly one of the most interdisciplinary studies that also contributes to the field of other studies. Today, data analysis in the world of data science understand the condition and development of the society. Along with the field of science helps in better understanding of the research in the field of law, public policy, and good governance. Thus, data analysis will now help not only in good governance but also act as a catalyst to solve public policy 1960. On behalf of Duliajan College, we would like to extend our sincere gratitude to our resource person, Dr. Sakuntala Chaudhary, presently an adjunct professor of machine learning at William Patterson University, Reading, New Jersey, USA, after retiring as the first Assamese woman to work for AT&T, that is American Telephone and Telegraph Company, started by Alexander Graham Bell, who in spite of her busy schedule have taken the time out for this webinar. In addition to this, Dr. Sakuntala Chaudhary is also involved in community services such as volunteering as a data scientist for National Scientist Volunteer Database started by Harvard University to combat COVID-19. Community services, and she is also presently President of Assam Sahitya Sabha, North America, volunteering as judge for science fair for colleges and high schools, students, and demographer for Mayor of Bridgewater, New Jersey, studying population trends. Thank you, Dr. Chaudhary, for your valuable insights. We have been tremendously benefited with the knowledge imparted to us. We would like to thank New Jersey Principal Duliajan College for guiding us. Thank you, sir, for your valuable, inaugural speech and giving us the platform to conduct this webinar smoothly. We'd like to extend our wholehearted regards to the IQAC and coordinators, Dr. Duliajan Nath, Associate Professor of Department of Commerce, Duliajan College, and Mr. Jointo Dr. Assistant Professor of the Botany Department, Duliajan College, for guiding us throughout the event. Associate Professor of Department of Commerce, Duliajan College, and smoothly. On behalf of Department of Computer Science, Duliajan College, we would like to extend our sincere thanks to the coordinator and who has been helping the technical support, Mr. Manoj Kumar Dekha, Assistant Professor of Computer Science, Duliajan College, and Mrs. Munmi Borthakur, Assistant Professor, Department of Computer Science, Duliajan College, for organizing this webinar successfully. This interesting webinar would not have been possible without them. We'd also extend our wholehearted gratitude to all the faculty members and students of different colleges for participating and making this webinar a successful one. The question and that is Q&A session was very interesting and interactive. I, on behalf of organizing committee, extend our gratitude for the participants of this session. Last but not least, I, of the organizing committee, extend our wholehearted gratitude to those who are directly or indirectly helped us to organize this webinar successfully. I am also happy in one sense that Dr. Sakuntala Chaudhary is my elder sister of our 4 children. My father, late Dr. Jyoti Prasad Medi, organized this webinar successfully. Guwahati University of Statistics Department, and my mother, Mrs. Preeti Medi, she expired last year. Just day before yesterday, I had my first Sadha, Tithi Congress, my Tithi Guse. So, my Akibadot, my Abhish Baidoe, Preeti Medi, webinar to Bhalke, Solai Him. Expired last year. Just day before yesterday, I had last first like okay, so बहुत ভাল লাগে সবকে লগ পাই with this the international webinar 2021. Thank you once again. Have a good day ahead. Stay safe and take okay, so बहुत ভাল লাগে সবকে লগ পাই with this
Thank you, Mrs. Solokadeka.
ভাল লাগে
Thank you once again. Have a good
আমাৰ এতিয়া
ভাল লাগিল কাবাৰ কিবা প্ৰশ্ন আজি ইনফৰ্মেল কথা পাতিব খুজে পাতিব পাৰে